On November 29, 2014, the provincial government of the Free State, one of 9 provinces in South Africa, awards a contract worth 255 million rand to 2 companies, Blackhead Consulting and Diamond Hill Trading. The contract requires these 2 companies to audit and remove asbestos roofing from houses in the province. This is important because prolonged exposure to the hazardous material can cause severe health complications, including cancer. But there's a problem. Very little of this money actually ends up being used to remove asbestos. Instead, much of it disappears into the pockets of government officials and business people with ties to the ruling party, the ANC. And more than 8 years later, many of those responsible are still yet to face justice. In this video, we'll be looking at what happened, who the key figures were, how it's affected people's lives, and why it still matters today. First, let's get some background. The year is 2014, and Ace Magashule is the Premier of the Free State. He is a rising star in the ANC and seen as someone who could one day become President of South Africa. He's also known for his lavish lifestyle and proclivity for expensive clothing. But he faces a challenge. His government is supposed to be providing housing and other services to poor rural communities, many of whom live under dangerous asbestos roofs. So he comes up with a plan. Together with his close associates, Magashule identifies 2 companies that will help him implement it. One of them is Blackhead Consulting, owned by a man named Edwin Sodi. The other is Diamond Hill Trading, owned by a woman named Theto Chun. What happens next is textbook corruption. Government officials deliberately ignore procurement regulations, sidestepping processes that could bring more transparency and oversight. They simply award the contract to the 2 companies without following the necessary procedures. Once they have the contract in hand, Sodi and Chun, together with Magashule and other accomplices, set about looting the money. They pay each other's companies millions of rands, inflating invoices and making payments for work that never gets done. Over the next few months, they move large amounts of money back and forth between their personal bank accounts and those of their companies. Some of this money is used to buy luxury cars, properties, and even clothes. By late 2015, though, word gets around that the Special Investigating Unit, an independent government body tasked with investigating high-level corruption, is onto them. So the conspirators try to cover their tracks. They pay back some of the money and delete evidence from their computers. But it's too late. By January 2016, the SIU has uncovered the plot and refers the matter to the National Prosecuting Authority for criminal charges to be brought against those involved. As more details emerge, it becomes clear that the whole thing is a gigantic web of deceit and greed. The Auditor General's report estimates that only 21 million rand, or 8%, of the total contract value was spent on the removal of asbestos. But when investigators go to verify this, they find that very little, if any, of the roofing has actually been removed. Instead, they found that the majority of the money had gone into the pockets of well-connected individuals, leaving poor communities still living under dangerous asbestos roofs. Soon after, various government officials and business people are arrested. But the trials drag on for years, and nobody ends up going to jail. To make matters worse, the fallout from the scandal starts to take shape. Trust in the ANC and its ability to deliver services is greatly diminished. As people come to realize the full extent of the scheme, protests erupt across the Free State, and Magashule is eventually suspended as Secretary General of the ANC, albeit temporarily, due to the party's step-aside rule, which requires that members facing serious charges step aside until they're cleared. The scandal also forms part of a larger investigation known as the Zondo Commission, named after the judge heading it, Raymond Zondo. The commission looks into a wide range of corruption allegations from 1994 to the present day, and makes 375 recommendations for prosecutions. But it focuses specifically on how private interests have captured key parts of the state for their own gain. After hearing evidence related to the asbestos contracts, Zondo concludes that this was a blatant case of corruption and calls for criminal prosecution. He describes the payments to the 2 companies as unjustifiable and pure looting. But once again, it takes another 2 years for the NPA to press charges. In February 2022, 8 people, including Sodi and 3 government officials, appeared in court on charges of corruption, fraud, and money laundering. They all pleaded not guilty, but things don't go smoothly. In July, one of the accused died mysteriously in a hail of bullets outside a shopping mall. Then, in September, the entire case collapses after the main witness turns hostile. Things didn't really move forward much after that. So, where does this leave us? Here's what you need to know. First, the communities affected by the scandal continue to live under the same asbestos roofs that they were promised would be removed over 8 years ago. This has had serious consequences for their health. Studies have shown that asbestos is strongly associated with malignant mesothelioma, a rare form of cancer affecting the lungs. It's also linked to cancers of the abdomen and other organs. Exposure to asbestos fibers can cause scarring and inflammation of the lungs and lead to breathing difficulties. Children and the elderly are especially vulnerable to these health effects. Second, the scandal has further eroded public trust in government service delivery and housing projects. After apartheid ended in 1994, the ANC came to power promising to improve the lives of Black South Africans, who had been denied basic services under the previous regime. However, the pace of service delivery has often been slow, and corruption scandals like this one have not helped. Third, the scandal has dealt a major blow to the ANC, especially in the Free State province, where the party's electoral support has declined in recent years. The party's reputation has taken a huge hit from the scandal, as people feel let down by the leaders they once looked up to. Fourth, despite the charges laid more than 6 years ago, no one has yet faced trial for their role in the scandal. The fact that senior figures like Magashule have managed to avoid justice so far has made headlines around the world. This case has become something of a test to see whether South Africa can hold its politicians to account. Fifth, according to an answer to a parliamentary question by the Department of Human Settlements, a total of 27 million rand has so far been paid to the contractors to remove asbestos. That means that 228 million rand is still missing. This amount represents not just the cost of removing the asbestos, but also the cost of the damage done to the health and well-being of the residents of the Free State. It's hard to put a price on the suffering caused by this corruption. Sixth, the scandal shows the extent of state capture that took place under the ANC in the run-up to the 2019 elections. Then President Cyril Ramaphosa admitted that state institutions had been hollowed out and were now beyond the effective control of organized crime. Groups such as the Gupta family and their associates had infiltrated and captured key parts of the state for their own gain. As detailed in the Zondo Commission's final report, finally, and perhaps most importantly, this scandal is a stark reminder of the human cost of corruption. When money meant for public service disappears into the hands of a few, it's ordinary people who bear the brunt. For the residents of the Free State, it means living under the threat of cancer and respiratory disease. It's a constant worry that weighs on their minds as they go about their daily lives. This is a story that's still unfolding. We'll keep you updated with any significant developments. Thank you for watching. And if you want to help us explain even more stories like this one to people around the world, please consider making a donation.